start with an intro?
No.
All right, we're here. Thanks for having me on.
Who are you?
Well, why don't you tell the audience who I am? Don't you do that to me.
So first, this is our first official podcast episode.
That's not a blooper podcast. This is the first one.
This is the first official episode. Episode numero
uno.
There you go.
Yep. That's Spanish for one. And so I'm kind of honored to be on here because I'm just supposed to be the video guy. But, help set up the lights in the studio and, consultation. But then you asked me to be on, which I think is pretty cool. But we have a lot to talk about.
I really need people to know who you are.
Right.
Because there has been so much work and thought that has gone into like the studio and the lighting and getting everything set up that I've had podcast stuff for 4 or 5 years, Mike, and I have stared at it and stared at it and stared at it.
Really good podcasting stuff too. So
I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I opened up the box and there was like, there's no way this is happening. Yeah. So I for those of you that don't know, this is Mike. He runs a videography company here in Jackson.
Yep.
Well, all over southern Michigan. But whoever needs your services, essentially.
I always say all along 94. I'll go into
there
all
you go.
94.
So from Chicago to Detroit.
Yep.
Mike has shot several videos for us over the years. Super duper amazing work. We've been very fortunate to have you like our brand, and it just kind of worked out to have you start helping us with video work. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of Mike over the coming months and years. We've developed a really good friendship through the video work and different ideas and thoughts rolling around. So why don't you tell them the name of your company, a little bit about yourself? And
yeah, so how I actually found UGQ was, what year was that I ordered that? Was it 2019, 18, something like that? I was doing a lot of research, getting into backpacking, and I knew that I wanted to splurge on a good top quilt. I was sold on top quilts. UGQ kept popping up, and I was on their website one day, and I seen that, proudly made in Jackson, Michigan, which is, it takes me about 20 minutes to get to your old spot from my house, which was really cool. So being I've always used videos like a little life hack in a way where I would just reach out to people that seemed interesting and be like, can I do a little, documentary on you and come feature your business, and just to get to meet them. So I did that with you guys, came and shot a nice little piece with Paul and Missy in the video. And
I was in it too.
Yeah. You were in the
B-roll.
He was there. Yeah. Working the down machine.
The down machine.
Is that what you guys, is that the official term?
No, we've never come up with an official term, but we will now.
Yeah, well, it should have something a little more gnarly, like something you name like a bomber.
The Downinator.
Yeah, something you name like a fancy jet that is, wartime jet. But I really did like the company, how all the family was working with you guys and everything. And after I did the showcase video, kind of a documentary about, we linked up and did a bunch of product videos, which have gotten a lot of views, and I think they probably helped a lot of people to educate them on the products and what they do.
And there will be more of those coming, newer, updated videos
on this set. Top-down camera, the whole thing. I'm glad you did the set, and I'm glad that it doubles as a hangout space for your like kind of new man cave here.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I have a hard time going home after work because of this space.
Yeah.
My kids, for those of you that don't know, also my wife and kids are here full time. My wife homeschools all 4 of our kids, and they have their own room and offices and et cetera. And they are so happy to be in this space and watching movies. And we've got it built in such a way that we can hang hammocks up around the outside of it, so they can lay in the hammocks and watch movies. And it's pretty epic. One of these days we'll do a behind the scenes shot of the whole studio and all the setup and whatnot. But
yeah, it's really cool that like what you're doing here with, it's not always about the success of your business, but it's kind of like life design. And so you're bringing your family in closer, you're hiring family, you kind of, you guys have the office playing in here while you're all working and darts going on, and
it's
pretty cool stuff. You got
it's the only thing that makes the world go round.
Yeah. You got Chad's little fantasy factory going on here. So it's pretty cool stuff, and super excited for the trips that are coming up, taking those with you guys, and the podcast. It's going to be a fun 2024.
Yeah, we have a lot in store for 2024. A lot of trips planned, a lot of special guests for the podcast. And you will be in attendance at most of the events that we're going to. Hopefully all of them, just depending on schedules and stuff. But we plan on having you at as many events as possible, not only to just video, but also to be a part of, the big vision that we have and kind of helping us get to that next level. So lots and lots and lots and lots of things in store for 2024.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I've done a lot of trips, which I brought one to share today, and the idea of getting to do more trips or some of these bigger trips I wouldn't normally get to do because, I have a 40-hour, week job and things like that is really exciting. So,
Dude, you work 40 hours a week?
Yeah, I have to be somewhere every 8 hours a day.
See, I'm a millennial. Well, you're a millennial too. See, we're supposed to only work 20 hours a week.
I got the golden handcuffs on me, My buddy Pat, who's in the trip that I do a lot of trips with, that's actually him in the photo. He's an electrician, so he has this nice little setup where he can work a couple of months, and then where he used to, now you got a pretty cushy thing he sticks with. But he would just take a whole summer, every summer off, and do his month-long trips and stuff. Yeah, and then when he wanted to come back, he'd call the hotline for his union, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, here's a job for you. Go back to work for another couple of months."
Nice,
and living frugal. About 50% of his time he had to be working.
See, if I did that, then half the world would be cold.
Yeah. I will say that UGQ quilt it was a good splurge for me, because that's the end of a long paddle or hike or end of a day. Like when I have that crawl underneath it, it is like that luxury that you want. Like I was right to pick that as my one luxury item. Not that I'm trying to sell quilts, but
you're doing great.
Thank you. Yeah. But definitely I'm still using the what's the cheap hammocks? I'm ordering a dream one soon, but what's the cheap Ego? I always get it wrong.
It's they who shall not be named.
Yeah. Very bad hammock. Yeah. Haven't upgraded that, but I have that nice quilt and that nice tarp, which makes it all
Listen, at
nice.
The end of the day, I get really finicky about hammock setups because we've been working with Dream Hammock for so long, and the reality is that I've seen a ton of hammocks. Whatever makes you comfortable is what you should use. I'm a big believer that when you're in the backcountry, it should be as close to your home sleep system as possible, meaning your comfort levels. So, I've never been focused on ultralight. I've never been focused on, it being the biggest and best and the most expensive. It's really about that whole trial and error process, which can get a little tricky, especially when you're dealing with, such expensive gear items. But, just like you said, it's like Eno may have, a bad rap, they're the Walmart of the hammock industry is what I've heard them described as. But at the end of the day, a lot of people use them and don't seem to have any issues with them. Now, I will say when you try a premium hammock versus one of those, you immediately realize the difference, and what you're missing out on. But, there's so many good companies out there and so many companies that, really they focus more on quality than others. And, it's tricky when we start talking about some of those bigger box stores.
It's also one of those things that happens as you get older. Like, there was a time when I could sleep in a futon and say, I sleep just fine in a futon. Why would I buy $1,000 mattress? And then, you spend a year on a pillow top mattress and you can't go back. There was a time when I was too cool for a coat, but then living in Michigan, the first time I bought my first really nice winter coat, it's like I never could go without it again. Right. So some comfort you don't know you need until you get them, and then it's like you'll never step back, which is like a good and a a bad thing.
But it's also that mental battle of convincing yourself to actually take the step to try it before you can figure it out.
I mean, when I switched to hammock camping, because I could always do a tent, and I didn't mind that I would wake up a couple times or be uncomfortable. I was like, it's part of being in the backcountry. It's part of like these trips.
Terrible night's sleep every night.
When I slept in the hammock, my cousins were really pushing it, like, you got to try it. You're going to love it. And I finally just did it. I think I just brought my hammock as an extra piece of gear and just decided to sleep in it. And I slept all the way through the night. And I was like, this is the first time this has happened on a trail. So that's what got me into the hammock camping.
Well, if you remember the trip I did with Joe Robinette, his very first night, well, I take that back. It was his first night winter camping, but his first night having it properly set up. His exact words to me were it was the best night sleep he's ever had in the backcountry. He's spent thousands and thousands of nights in everybody's gear. And so for him to say, hey, this setup with, a dream hammock in your guys' quilts was the best night's sleep you ever had was, obviously extremely validating, it just shows that, because I think the other big issue that people have with hammock camping is the setup. That's by far where most errors are made. Because a lot of the people that I've talked to, they say, well, I've tried hammock and it just wasn't for me. And it's like, well, who did you set it up, or did you have somebody set it up for you?
Yeah.
And most of the time it was that they set it up, but once I started asking them the questions, it's like, well, you had that completely set up wrong.
Yeah.
So I think there definitely needs to be a better level of education on how to set up hammocks properly, and it would really open up the door for a lot of people, because most people are just too scared to try it. And it's really similar between the difference of switching from a mummy bag to a quilt. A lot of people really struggle with that mentally. Like, I'm so used to something wrapping all the way around me. How can I justify, especially when we're going out cold weather camping, having my entire back exposed? And no matter what you do, because the back is exposed and it's not wrapping all the way around you, no matter what you do, you're going to experience drafts if you're inexperienced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there's always a learning curve with really any of them. Now, I do have a confession to make. I haven't slept in a tent, like an actual tent, in... Actually, that's not true.
Yeah, I was say that event we just went to, Britt made you sleep in the tent with her.
Oh, that's not good. So we went to a hammock event recently. The Michiligan. How do you pronounce that? Because I always struggle with that. Michiligan, the Michigan Chili Hammock.
Now to be known as the McWettigan, because it was raining the entire time.
It was miserable.
Cold.
So I had hip reconstruction back in August of this year. And we went to this event. Now, my wife has come with me on hammock events for years, and she really, really enjoys hammock camping. But the part that she doesn't like about hammock camping is sleeping separate, which I have mixed feelings about. But she does not like sleeping separate. And so we have looked at like double hammocks and things like that, or trying sleeping in the same hammock. It's usually always a no-go.
You can't sleep in the same hammock with anybody, no matter how much you love them.
I tried with one of my kids, and it was like, you might as well just be laying on top of me, because that's that bad. So we were at this event, and I was having a hard time sleeping in the hammock just because of the pressure on my hip and whatever. Right. And it was raining and cold, and my wife was not enjoying her time. And so, long story short, at a hammock event that we were the primary sponsor of, my wife and I went to Walmart and bought...
Oh, you didn't even... You had to get it now.
we went and bought a $30 Walmart tarp, or tent, and set that up in between all of our hammocks, and had a tarp, one of our tarps hanging over it to at least kind of camouflage it some. But it was quite entertaining to see us, out of the entire campground, we were the only ones in the tent.
But you had some great hammock setups there.
Oh yeah, we great hammocks, and I didn't get to use them, but they were great.
Woke up in the morning all like tired from your terrible sleep. Like, did you take a nap in one of those at least at some point?
No, I did not. My son did. My oldest, who was with us, he thoroughly enjoys hammock camping. So in fact, we're going down to HangCon in... Is it January? It's not January. In January.
11th, yeah.
And he plans on sleeping in a hammock the whole time.
Nice.
So,
and I'm taking my son to that, and this will be his first time sleeping in a hammock. I already told him, so
nice.
I think he's going to like it. But
you need another setup, don't you?
Well, I figured you're going to have some on display. We'll
just throw him in one.
You don't want the Eno to be anywhere around your camp, I'm sure. So
yeah. Probably not.
I mean, I got the quilt and I got the tarp, so we're going to be just fine.
We'll make sure you're taken care of.
When you were talking about comfort, I instantly thought about the first time I took a chair with me on a trip, and I have not went without a chair.
Oh.
It's just one of those items, like, it's worth that pound and a half.
100%.
At the end of the day.
I'll take a 5-pound chair over nothing.
To be able to sit down at the end and we do some long hikes that make you question everything you brought. But I've never
question your life, and
I tried to do like the ultralight thing where I'm just going to take an ass pad, and just have something to sit on. I'll find a log, because I was just watching these extreme through hikers, and when I took the chair for the first time, it was just over. Like sitting down in that chair at the end of the day with your hot toddy or whatever is just,
well, and
worth it.
even more so in a hammock setup. One of the things I always do is once I get the whole setup done, I'll pull my hammock, because my hammock has two pieces of shot cord to stake it out to kind of open it up and make it easier to get in and out.
Bends down.
But I'll take one of the front shot cord and I'll pull it all the way to the back, so it pulls my whole hammock setup out of the way, and then I can set up a couple chairs underneath my tarp in porch mode, and then we can cook underneath there, play cards, have a little table.
Yeah. When I was editing, when I was kind of putting this trip video together, you know, it got me thinking about how many times me and Pat have, like, if you have one hammock camper with you, you kind of got all your, sure, you can bring your own tarp and set it up in case if it rains, but then you're carrying something just in case. Whereas a hammock camper is going to have their tarp with them. I don't know how many times we've hit rain, and I've done just that, kind of pulled my hammock out of the way, or sometimes we don't even have to do that, but I put up 2 sticks and just give them a nice little awning, and we'll just sit there in our chairs and cook and BS and just hang out right there. And
well, speaking of your trips on South Manitou, speaking of the Manitou Islands, and the tarps, one of my good friends actually did a 7-day hunt on North Manitou Island. So I think I don't remember the exact dates, but it's in October. They open it up for, I think, 15 days or something like that. Don't fact check me on that because I literally don't know. Somewhere around there, they open up the island for a small hunting season.
Right.
And I don't even remember exactly how you get in with that crowd, but he came to me and was like, hey, you know, I'm going to be sleeping in a tent, but I really want to take a tarp in case it rains. I want to have a place to like set up and hang out underneath. So in his case, he took the tarp and was underneath the tarp far more than he was in his tent. You know, and a lot of people look at the tarps like, oh, that's for hammock camping, but it's, as you said, it's not. There's so many applications to use that in. And in fact, when I backpacked North Manitou Island, it rained quite a bit when we were there, and we were all hanging out underneath the tarps. Yeah. You know, because when you're in a tent, most of the guys that are backpacking have a 1 or 2 person tent, so you're just hanging out with all your friends, which is nobody. Yeah.
I mean, the weight is so light, and I think I get mine condensed down into like the size of a can, you know, as far as in my bag. Yeah. So it really doesn't add any weight or nothing. But like I said, that's kind of the benefits of having somebody that does the hammock camping in your party, is that you always have this kind of awning to hang out under. You're not carrying extra things, right? You know. Yep. But.
So what do you think? You want to get into the trip? So why don't you tell us a little bit about when did you go to South Manitou Island?
This was in 2021 that we did this trip. Oh, okay. So it's been a while. And I have a lot of recordings of a lot of our trips that I haven't done. Same thing with family trips. And I've always told myself kind of like, oh, when I'm old and not doing nothing, I'll just like reminisce, you know, and I don't know, edit these videos, you know, 'cause if I don't get to them within a couple months, I kind of just keep them there.
Dude, I have literally thousands of videos that I've filmed that I have literally done nothing with.
Yeah. So this was 2021, and I surprisingly talked to the camera a lot, but we can just keep it on mute and just kind of go through like kind of what we did. But South Manitou is a beautiful island. You know, the first day we paddled out there, did a nice hike to the lighthouse and the lake that's on the island, Florence Lake. And
now I heard that South Manitou was more touristy than North Manitou. There's nothing on it except for the one historic village, and then there's like a junk or a graveyard.
You know, that might be because they have that welcome center and they have campgrounds, whereas like North might not have that. Gotcha. And then also there's a big harbor, a big bay there.
Is there any restaurants on the island?
Boats will pull it. There's no restaurants, no paved roads, no nothing. It's just there's some old buildings, old structures, old cemetery, lake, you know. And then
that sounds pretty similar.
West side is all sand dunes, you know, massive. Yeah. Then before we get in that, we'll just double check, make sure this is recording. Which it is.
Nice. Hashtag winning.
And then bring this up. Yes, that's a Prius. Now I think I can turn this volume down.
We're still learning all the ins and outs of our new setup.
So we don't really need the audio. So yeah, we left from Glen Arbor. And it's about 9 miles to get to South Manitou Island. 8 miles to the lighthouse. About 9 is what we paddled.
So you guys paddled to South Manitou Island
in sea kayaks. Yep. It's funny on this Prius. He built that out of conduits because he's an electrician, so he gets conduits all the time for free. Nice. So he's got that thing like bolted to his car. And we took so many trips. We've had like 3 or 4 kayaks on the top of that little tiny Prius.
What time is it right now?
It's about 7 a.m. when we left.
See, this is one thing I really want to get more into doing is paddling. I've kicked around the idea of doing several kayak trips or canoe trips. Hey, I have that exact same hat.
Yeah, I wanted you to see that before you see me in one that I was wearing those kind of before.
I don't think I've ever seen you wear a hat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your hair's always styled so nicely and making me look bad.
Those Columbia hats.
Here we go.
Hats. So we were told that it was
Mike, you've been working out.
This is 2021.
Oh, so you don't look like that anymore?
I've got a little bit.
Uh-oh.
A little bit more
It's not
going
because
on
of
now.
these.
It couldn't be those. But on the forecast, Pat's like, it's fine. They're foot and a half waves. So I'm like, 1.5 foot waves, that's nothing.
So
Well,
obviously this is the island back here, right, that we're seeing?
Yeah.
Or that's...
So actually coming up, watch this next clip. You're going to see how bad the waves were. So 1.5 feet is actually like 3 foot. See? Now watch. He disappears.
Oh, yeah, that's not
And
good.
we're out there in the
That's
middle
not good.
of Lake Michigan. And we didn't even put our skirts on because we just thought like, foot waves, 1.5 waves,
Right.
it'll be fine. When
You
we're
got
out there
loaded with
pedaling,
water.
they were capping and coming right in our ports. Just, his pump broke. I'm going to pause this. Pat's pump broke. So I don't know if we had a beer before we left or what, but he had a can in there, and he's trying to empty out his boat with a can in the middle of this giant body of water where you feel so small in the middle. And I had my trusted sponge, so I was okay.
What kind of pump are you using?
He just had like a...
Oh, just like a little hand pump.
Yeah,
type
which you need if you
deal.
sink too. You got to be able to pump out your boat.
Yeah.
It was broke, so if one of us would have sinked, it would have been kind of like it was one of those experiences where we learned the hard way, the lesson,
Right?
Because we're out there and water, you can't help but it's coming in because the waves are coming from every direction. You can't just make sense of it and just they're always coming from here.
Right,
They would smack
right.
you from the side, and you're out there and needle in the haystack. Something ever happened, you're screwed. No one's
Plus
gonna
you have
find
all your gear and everything in
yeah,
there.
yep.
Yeah, that's scary.
So that was a really scary, 9 miles for us.
So how long was the paddle from? Where'd you take off from?
Glen Arbor was about 2 hours, which is actually a pretty good time because we were catching a lot of those waves and
Yeah, that
kinda
seems
cruising.
crazy because I remember when we took the ferry from Leland, Michigan to North Manitou Island, it was about an hour and a half
Yeah.
just on the ferry.
Yeah.
So is South Manitou closer to the mainland than north? Or you guys just paddled like beasts?
I mean, from Glen Arbor, I think you're kind of in the middle between the two, but you might have been able to take off a little bit more to the up a little bit higher, like up
Yeah, we were
Traverse City.
up near Traverse City,
yeah.
right?
So then that's a little bit quicker. Like from Fishtown would be almost like a straight shot to North
Gotcha.
Manitou, I think. But
Yeah. So whose idea was it to paddle?
actually, Pat just got these sea kayaks.
Oh, okay.
So this was like the perfect trip to test them out.
Nice.
But I mean, the trip was amazing, and the sunset trip we did the next day was really. That's me giving Pat crap for.
So you were about 2 hours in on the paddle.
Yeah, so it took us about 2 hours. Usually it takes, I think, 2.5 to 3 hours to paddle that, but because we were catching a lot of those waves, and like I said, this is me explaining that 1.5 foot waves is 1.5 foot above the normal water level
Right.
and 1.5 foot below. So when you're out there, that's 3 foot waves
Right.
on a small boat.
Yeah, that's crazy. I will say, when we were on North Manitou Island, once we got to the west side of the island, I mean, it genuinely felt like we were in the Caribbeans.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're just looking at open water, crystal clear blue water.
See the west side of it, of the island?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sand dunes.
I had
on
to
the-
think about where I was at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that side.
I mean, West Coast anywhere in Michigan or any island off Michigan is going to be sandy, beautiful.
Yeah. No, it was, and we went, I want to say we went in July. How were the black flies for you when you guys went? What time of year did you guys go?
There's the infamous camping setup.
Nice.
You'll recognize the tarp, and you can't see anything else. But we got big old bags. We did bring a case of beer, even though it's a
You got to
long
bring
hike.
the essentials.
Yeah, it's hard to do that on camping trips. Usually we'll bring like one each, and
We packed in like 15 pounds of salmon.
yeah,
So
it's tricky. Usually it's whiskey and some tea. Have some hot toddies, some ginger tea or something.
nice.
But it is really nice to have that one like thick beer.
This is the tarp that you brought to. I'm really
No,
getting sick of seeing you use this other gear. We really need to
No,
get
I
you
think
taken care of.
this is your. Remember that time I called you and said, "Hey, do you have a tarp? Any premium? Any tarps?"
Oh,
for me?"
okay. I'm looking at this glare and I'm
that's-
thinking that was a.
Yeah, that's an olive. What's the color? You're the expert.
If I had to guess, it's either olive drab or dark olive.
So I actually called you, I think, before this trip to get a tarp, and you're like, "Yeah, stop by," and it was kind of like you gave me a tarp for future work, kind of thing. You're like, "Yeah,
Oh, you're earning it right
get
now.
a hold of me when you get back, and don't worry about it."
I have a really bad habit of giving stuff away.
I mean, I think it's a great habit.
Really bad habit.
Don't ever get rid
I
of it.
do it a lot because pretty much anytime somebody comes to the shop, please don't flood the shop, but anytime somebody comes to the shop, I for some reason, I just get in a really giddy mood, and I'm like, oh, I take one of these. I have one of these. Oh, you need a quilt? Yeah. Here you go.
Well, it's nice to be generous. That's a...
Yeah, but I'm running a
great
business,
quality.
Mike. Trying to make some money.
Well, I think it's a great quality, especially as somebody is, around your circles. Don't give that up. So that's my setup. It's only a flash. There's my, the hammock.
Infinite.
So I usually use the Nanolite, Thermarest Nanolite pad, and then my UGQ top quilt.
Where'd you get this contraption from?
That is from Amazon. But I like that it's all modular because I was on a bike trip one time.
I'm secretly in love with it.
And I didn't use my tarp. I didn't use the bug net. I just used the hammock and the quilt, I think. And I think one night I did bring out my Thermarest mattress because it was a little bit wetter out,
When we did North Manitou, it was, I think the lows got into the 70s, and I had a 20-degree set, top quilt, under quilt. Worst decision I ever made.
Oh, because you're hot.
Oh man, it was brutal. Top quilt was on the ground by the morning, and my under quilt was all the way loosened up, and it was still making me sweat.
That's when you need that the new Quillo. I think that's.
Oh yeah.
But I'm kind of still leaning towards using my that Nanolite Thermarest, even though it can try to slide out, but I've camped pretty low temps, and with that drawstring going under my pad with my top quilt, it does pretty good. And
what drawstring?
Not the drawstring, the elastic.
You better get your lingo right. Do you see where you're at? You mean the dynamic tension control system? Dynamic tension control system.
Yeah. Right. Well, this also makes you look better because not only what was that? You have the acronym for that too?
Well, so
DTC.
So on the website it's DTC. It's just dynamic tension control, but the official one is dynamic tension control system. Speaking of Quillo, while we're on that topic real quick, for those of you that don't know, Mike is the mastermind behind the Quillo video, the promo video that we shot for the Quillo on its launch. Mike was the one that filmed that video and did an amazing job editing, filming. I did some.
It was fun.
I moved the orange glow stick back and forth a couple times. That was fun.
You just came up with the product. Yeah. No big deal.
That was the easy part. It was the filming part that
the guy who filmed us, the mastermind. I think it's a pretty, I think it's been a while since something new like that came out that's, a down product that could actually be useful. I totally can see it.
Could be useful? Mike, it is useful.
Oh, it's 100% useful.
So useful.
Most of my trips are in, spring, summer, stuff like that, where that would be more than enough.
Speaking of new, there may or may not be a brand new top quilt coming in 2024.
As you combine in some Quillo.
No, it has nothing to do with Quillo. Picture, without giving too much away, let me think how to word this. Let's just say, I'm really trying to be careful here. One thing I've learned in this business is that if you aren't the first and you talk about it, somebody will capsize on. Is that the right word? I don't know. Somebody will take advantage of that.
Capitalize.
There you go.
Yeah.
Somebody will capitalize on that. Let's just say there's a brand new, never before seen style of top quilt that we will be launching in 2024. Currently in the R&D stages, but brand new features, things that really we've gotten a lot of feedback on from customers over the years. Quilts have kind of been the same since their origin, and so we obviously always try to focus on innovation and what we can do differently. So this particular model is certainly going to check a lot of those boxes, as well as brand new underquilt design.
Oh wow!
You may or may not believe this, but the underquilt really hasn't changed since its origin.
It seems like such a fun even trying to tackle I wonder if I can redesign this is pretty good question. Who would even ask that? Yeah, because it's just such a
so from the hours of 10 p.m. until about 3 a.m. My mind is going like this, constantly thinking about new ways to change things.
You ever wake up in the morning and just have a random half asleep and something's pops in your head
That plus I usually dream in products.
Oh wow.
It literally just I can't explain it. I mean, it's one of those things where like I'll literally, it's like with the Quillo, you know, it was one of those things where there was a company that had which maybe we can turn this into its own episode talking about the Quillo, because it was really, really interesting how it came to be. But I was looking at a review website. Somebody had reviewed, you know, top 23 or top backpacking quilts for 2023. And on there was a backpacking or a camp blanket.
Okay.
And I'm like, how did this make it on the list? Like, you got all these reputable companies, and all of a sudden there's like some Amazon camp blanket on this top list. And so it got me thinking. It was like, you know, hey, I remember growing up, my grandma used to make this grandma style quilt that had this foot pocket. And I remember laying on the couch as a kid, and I would pull that thing up. And I always loved, you know, I don't know, there's like two types of people out there. There's the type that wrap the blanket around their feet, and then there's the type that don't like that because, you know, they're weird. Right. Obviously, I'm type A.
Right. Well, my feet will be one of the first things to get warm. Like, I cannot wear socks to bed, or else my feet will be like sweaty.
Oh, you're an anti-sock wearer to bed. Well, like, interesting.
My hands and my feet don't really get cold. Like, people will be complaining about their hands being cold. My hands will be fine. Like,
see, if I had it my way, I'd wear my socks in the shower.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I always have socks on. I'm also not a shorts wearer. I pretty much only ever wear pants. So if you catch me wearing shorts, you better take a picture because it's rare.
It is one or the other, though. You're either, you know, full on cold feet all the time, or hands are hot all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
See, my feet aren't cold, but I just, for some reason, maybe I'm self-conscious about my feet, Mike. Why don't you just leave me alone?
I can't even, you know, as much as I like wool socks, I really don't wear them except for like on trips where I think I might be, you know, it might actually be cold. You know, I got my trail runner shoes and not quite enough, you know, warmth or thermal, you know, but day to day, I love those socks. But unless I'm wearing them barefoot around the house, I put on shoes and I'm sweating, you know?
Yeah. See, I mean, my feet sweat, but I don't know what it is. I just always am in socks, and I'm always in slippers pretty much up until bed. Slippers
make me sweat. If it's full on slippers,
that's a personal problem.
I'm getting sweaty and uncomfortable, and I'm like, why am I wearing these uncomfortable, soggy?
You need to do something about your sweaty feet,
furry things on my feet.
Anyways, back to the Quillo real quick.
Okay.
So I was thinking, like, okay, there's camp blankets on the market, and then in a whole different genre there is this grandma's quilt that has this foot pocket. Now, historically, that foot pocket was actually designed for displaying quilts at craft shows and stuff like that. So they would fold up the quilt and tuck it into this pocket, and that was how they would display the quilts. And so my grandma and my stepmom made them for me my whole childhood. Loved them. Absolutely loved having these blankets. And in fact, I didn't like using a blanket that didn't have a foot pocket, especially because being taller, it's hard to find a blanket that can wrap all the way around your feet and still come up comfortably on you. So absolutely love the idea. And so after about 30 seconds of looking at this on there, I was like, why don't we just merge the two? Ultralight materials, down-filled with a foot pocket. And so I came out and talked to the team. I said, hey, look, let's make this. Here's the design. This is how we're going to do it, blah, blah, blah. Let's make it. So within an hour or 2 hours, I don't remember how long it was, we had the first one made. I was like, oh, this is perfect. And it wasn't until after the first one was made that I'm like, hey, wait a second. Let me roll this up and stuff it inside this pocket and see what happens. Right. And it literally looked like a regular full-size pillow that you would have on your bed, because we made the large version first. And literally, and everybody in the staff will attest to this, I literally did this. We nailed it. Yeah. So it was like all of a sudden it was there.
So the original, you know, grandma's version, did she still fold it and put it in that pocket? Was that part of how?
I had never. Well, it wasn't until doing research after the fact that I learned that that's what it was used
storage.
For. I always used it just to put my foot in, which was a double function of it. Right. And then also, you know, realizing once you flip the quilt inside out, it actually doubles as a top quilt as well. Right. You know, I was like, man, this is perfect. So just doing some basic testing with it, taking it to an event. I mean, people were literally fighting over it.
I mean, the design makes so much, like, of the original, you know, grandma's version. It would make sense because a lot of people have baskets that they keep their pillows in their living room and things. So like, then you're taking your blanket that you want to have in your living room, and you're able to get it down to like a pillow size. Right. Throw it in that basket with all your other pillows. You know, so it makes a lot of sense for, you know, the blanket and perfect for with the down material.
And that's the other thing too, is like, you know, the more that we were playing with it and looking at the design of it, we started realizing, like, man, there's a lot of uses for this. For instance, when I took the first one home, my kids, when I say they fought over it, it is no exaggeration. I mean, there was elbows flying, there was words being said because they wanted it so bad. You know, and I got to thinking, like, man, this would be perfect for family road trips, you know, because it packs down so small so kids can quickly throw it in their backpack. Yeah. When I went on road trips as a kid, we had big giant pillows and our comforters, and there was no room for anybody, and it was chaos. Now, I will say, I have had a lot of people ask me the obvious question, well, what if I want a Quillo, or what if I want a pillow and a quilt? Obviously, you just buy two.
Right.
Case closed. No, but the reality is that you can't achieve all of those things at the same time. The idea behind it, you know, and kind of my thought process was, you know, hey, look, if I go out winter camping and I am, you know, using my regular top quilt, I can have that Quillo in pillow mode and be using it as my pillow, you know, for winter camping. But let's say it gets a little bit colder than I anticipated. Well, now I can take that pillow. You know, it comes down to that whole thing. Like, am I going to keep my head comfortable, or am I going to keep my body warm? Well, now I have the option to turn this into a liner that I can stuff in my top quilt and give myself an extra layer of warmth. I can go without a pillow for one night, but I sure as heck don't want to be laying there shivering, freezing cold all night. And so having that in your arsenal gives you that option to convert it into whatever it's needed for in the moment.
Yeah. I think I'll definitely be using mine for, you know, when I go to my gear rack before a trip and I'm packing back and forth. Well, we'll have one soon. But
there's one. Just take that one.
Yeah, when I'm back to the
See what I said?
You just told me you have a problem. I'm not going to take it. I can't. But, you know, I think it'll be a great option to, like, say, it's the middle of summer, you know, because this takes up substantially less room than the standard top quilt. My 20-degree top quilt does.
Well, plus, you know, it's under a pound.
Yeah, gives me more room
full size
for beer, or, you know, a more comfy chair, you know, and then endless options there. So did your kids did you get them you told me, didn't you say you were going to get them Quillos for Christmas, or make them Quillos?
This is a point of contention in my household because what had happened was I was supposed to order all of their fabrics and give them Quillos for Christmas, and Dad dropped the ball on that and didn't get the fabric ordered in time to arrive for Christmas. So they will be getting their Quillo gifts for our road trip down to HangCon.
Oh, nice. So did they all get to pick out their prints?
Yeah, we got on Ripstop by the Rolls website. Great company. We got on their website, and each kid picked out the pattern that they wanted for their custom Quillos. I wanted to do, because each of my kids are obviously all interested in, like, different things. Like, one's super interested in Sonic, one's interested in Kirby, and blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to do, like, a custom design print that I kind of, like, designed in Photoshop to do, but I ran out of time. So, you know, I suck.
Time seems to be the hardest thing to, you know, find these days.
Yeah. Anyways, back to where we were at.
So this is my only shot at camp, but, you know, that's Mikasa.
I like it.
So the first day, you know, I mean, we go pretty hard on our trip. So the first day, after that 9-mile trip, you know, we took a little break, ate.
Does it have a name on it?
We ended up doing a pretty decent hike. This is us hiking the Florence Lake, a lake on an island, you know, which is pretty cool.
We took some telescoping fishing poles and fished the main lake on North Manitou Island. Yeah. And we caught about 30 smallmouth bass.
Oh, we've talked about trying to get to telescoping, you know, fishing poles for even our kayaking trips that we do on the rivers in Michigan, just to be able to fish and then try to maybe have a little fish fry at night or something. Fish. You know. So we ended up going to the lighthouse here too, and which is, you know, it's a pretty good trip.
So now are you on the west side or east side? So
this first day we did like the northeast side, or southeast side. So we went. The lighthouse is on the southeast, like, kind of peak where we came in. There's a big harbor where people parked their boats, which is probably why people think it's kind of busy, because a lot of boats will park in there to get out of the waves.
Right.
And then you got the welcome center and the whole camping area, but it's pretty secluded.
I'm really disappointed to find out that there's nowhere to eat on the island.
I mean, this is all you need here.
I'm a big eater, even though I don't look like it.
Yeah.
The YouTubers that I've gone backpacking with will attest to the fact that I like to hike about 1 mile and then find the nearest restaurant
Oh yeah.
to go sit down for the next 12 hours.
I mean, when you take any trip, and that's why I like bike packing, because when you're bike packing, you're always going into new towns and you're getting hot food and cold beer all the time,
Right.
which I love. Plus, you're also seeing a lot more. Whereas backpacking, I mean, the food tastes good no matter what you make because you've hiked all day. But
What is happening here?
oh, this is our
This is the can opener situation, huh?
yeah. Let me try to. I don't think we have the volume hooked in our headphones.
No, that's connected to the
Hear
TV.
the seeds pop in. That was the meals on the trails are always the best. But when you try to eat them at home,
No, when you have access to
yeah,
real food.
Could have brought a can opener, but
Oh yeah, that's perfect right there. Love everything about the technique.
yeah. I mean, Pat's a really good trail chef. He always comes up with something good, and he'll always
Just the
surprise you.
fact
He puts
that he's
another
doing
sauce.
this, I know that he's done this before, and that it's probably going to come out amazing.
I mean, we didn't have room for the can opener. We brought a case of beer, you know. Yeah. So, day 2.
So you're one of those types where you can wake up on day 2 and still look the exact same as you did on day 1.
I mean, I look, you know,
I am
Yeah.
not that way.
I sleep good in my hammock.
Although
with
your
my-
hair's looking a little
and not quite perfect
right
there,
there.
right?
Yeah, that's a little rough.
I shouldn't even put this in here. It's terrible.
Here's the thing, though. I will say that one thing I've always struggled with is doing vlogging style videos because
Yeah.
it's overcoming like the insecurity that you have of yourself and how you
Right.
sound on camera, and literally looking at yourself in the face and going, well, I am such an idiot, and then also
Yeah.
worrying about other people seeing you, because I've
Yeah.
gone on so many trips with YouTubers, and from a distance I'm looking at them and literally looking at them like, you are embarrassing me with all of your vlogging, and
Right.
we're like in a public place, but then
Right.
when you see the video you're like, oh, it makes sense because that's what it's supposed to look like.
I kind of always have a rule, like even when it comes to like family photos or whatever, like there can't be more than one person, taking a photo or video at a time, because then I'm like, then nobody's enjoying the moment,
Right.
And my hardest time when I do trips is like, I don't want to pull out my camera. I'm like, like I find these little moments that I just want to be still, or I'm just enjoying or taking it in.
Yeah.
I don't think about pulling out my phone.
Dude, I've been on so many trips and I have filmed exactly 0 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also because I was usually with YouTubers who were filming it. But it's always nice. Like I've gone on trips where there were, 5, 6, 7 different YouTubers, and it's really interesting to see like all the different perspectives of that
Right.
particular trip, and how everybody captures it slightly differently. So that aspect I like, but I've just never got into filming. That's why I hired you, so I don't
Right.
have to film myself because it's too uncomfortable for me.
And I honestly wouldn't do like even on this one I did okay. Like I did a couple little updates, but there's a lot where I'll start strong with my updates, because you need that to kind of drive the narrative of the film, of the video. Tell people where you're at, what you're doing, things like that, or else you're gonna have to do something afterwards and like do like a talk about it while you're at your desk,
Right.
And there's been a lot that I started really strong, and then it just fell off, and I just didn't even touch my phone. It's like all of day 1, and then nothing after that.
Right.
But hopefully, going with UGQ, it'll keep me on my game better with
Dude, it better
keeping
because
things going. Come back and it's I don't. Well, we were having a great time. I just forgot to get day 2 and 3. Chad, I'm sorry.
you're fired.
So this is like an old like settlement that's there. You walk through this. This is us heading towards the sand dunes, so like on the west coast, which is beautiful. Wait till you see the footage there. It's like a whole nother place,
Right.
To be able to go to one, plot of land and see everything you can see on South Manitou is.
Now, have
amazing.
you done North Manitou Island yet?
I have not. No.
Oh, well, we're going.
Yeah,
What we're gonna do is we're gonna go to North Manitou Island, then we're gonna just quickly swim over to South Manitou Island.
Ooh. Can I get a floaty of some kind?
I will need a motor of some sort,
Right.
Because I am not swimming.
There was also a guy that was camped. You probably seen in that last video. He was kind of like on his boat. He was on his boat, did not move the entire time we were there, and he was out there with his, pretty attractive wife, and just hanging out on that boat. I was like, that's actually not a bad, because if you have it there, you can go to, a short little jaunt over to Sleeping Bear Dunes,
Right.
Pyramid Point. You can almost see all these places.
Yeah,
right there.
For anybody that's not done North or South Manitou Island, it's probably one of my favorite places to go.
I mean,
in Michigan.
look at the sand,
Yeah,
the sand dunes and the blue water. It's so.
And the reality is that even the footage doesn't do it justice. I mean, the
Right.
footage never does it justice, but it really doesn't do it justice here.
Like that's so high.
Like I said,
up right there.
when we were this has to be on the west side.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what it looked like for us. I mean, it literally feels like you're on a Caribbean island.
Yeah.
You know, between now the water temperature certainly doesn't feel like it.
Before this, I had already seen enough to be impressed by the island. Like I had already seen the lake and did some great hikes. But when we got here, I was just like.
Now, how much bigger or smaller is South Manitou than North Manitou? Because I think North Manitou is like 15 or 16,000 acres.
I don't know the acreage, but I think it's smaller because it's basically like a little medallion with almost like a cookie with a little bite out of it. Mm-hmm. It's got like a little harbor, you know, but it's tiny. I think North Manitou
it's incredible.
Is bigger.
Have you seen? I think it was a video last week.
The shot here is like just. So cool. I mean, I always like hiking the sand dunes. Plus,
shit, bro, sled.
This is when you don't want to have hiking boots on when you're doing sand dunes like this. Like, me and my cousins did a trip to Nordhaus, and they were making fun of my sandals until we started hiking in the dunes, and they're like, "This guy came prepared," Which I love those Chacos. Those are great hiking sandals.
What are they?
Well, you're a sock guy, so I don't think you'll like them.
Oh,
Chacos,
yeah,
they're like lifetime.
Socks with them.
They're a lifetime guaranteed like hiking sandal. Big beefy bottoms like you'd get on hiking boots, but then straps,
You're not a sock and sandal kind of guy, are
you? Well, I guess I've done like Crocs and sandals. Sometimes it's usually if I'm running somewhere. I don't think I'd wear it with an outfit out.
Yeah, I like wearing Crocs with socks, sandals with socks, but primarily just shoes. I don't really wear sandals I do wear Crocs a lot. I wear Crocs a lot when I'm camping too. They're my camp shoe. I carry the extra weight to have my Crocs around camp.
I thought about bringing like a lightweight something that just be able to put on at camp.
I'm not an ultralighter by any means.
Yeah, I have started doing like last year. I started bringing a pair of sweats, like camp sweats. So after I'm already rinsed out, whatever, I put it on my. What else do you want to? If I was at home, I'd be wearing sweats or being comfy anyway. So I'm taking my camp sweats more serious.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you want to try to mimic your. If you want to be comfortable, you want to try to mimic your home life as much as you can on the trail.
Right.
But it comes at a cost, usually in weight.
Like I said, we work pretty. So this is after hiking it was about 10 miles to go to the west coast of the island, and then hike back down. We also seen the old growth like white cedar, original like trees that are there.
So what do you
do?
This
is us going to the shipwreck. I can't remember the name of the shipwreck. But this is us paddling.
Oh, this one out
for
here.
Sunset.
That was the guy that had the random pictures on the last video that.
Yeah.
I didn't know who it was.
Oh yeah, this is where a lot of the pictures are from. Actually, I think the one that you've seen at the beginning of the podcast is coming up with him and the.
It's like UGQ. Sunset. I don't know any of these people, but yes, this is UGQ.
Well, the footage matches the brand. We had to utilize them, but this ended up being like cool. The final trip and like the what just brought it all. Like, I was already so happy with the trip.
A lot calmer here too.
Yeah. But then the sunset ride back, like wait till you see the shot of like the lighthouse and stuff. It was just super cool. It was actually a pretty good little kayak trip from our camp. But it's pretty neat just exploring it. It's covered in shit.
This looks awesome. Now, did you guys climb up on it at all, or?
Well, like I said, it's covered in seagull crap, like completely.
I think it's okay to say shit.
I already said shit.
Oh, shit.
Should have asked about that. It's only episode 1, so
Yeah, we'll test the waters on the swearing. As my wife was asking me the other day, she was like, "Is this going to be one of those wholesome type podcasts, or is it going to be one of those ones that is really for adults only?" And I'm like, I mean, I can't control what people say when they come on here, so there might be some.
I think the S word is a good one to start with. Like, it's not super aggressive.
You should say it again just to make sure.
I think shit's a good one to just try it out, see how it works. So I think this is the shot that we, get that nice golden hour light.
Did you guys get shat on at all while you were kayaking back?
Yeah, that's like a picture when the lighthouse was lit on our way back.
Yeah, it's nice.
Beautiful. And then the coolest part though, like the very end, the shot's coming up, but it's a terrible shot. We were pretty much at our camp, and we look over and we see the moon setting So that's actually a pyramid point. It looks like complete crap, but the moon was setting behind Pyramid Point, like the big sand dune there. And, you know, pictures never do stuff like that justice, but it was just beautiful and red. And we were just super calm. And we floated out there for probably 40 minutes just hanging out, howling, you know.
What time of year did you guys go out here?
It was August 21st, I think. It was when I seen my post. So
towards later, the colors hadn't started changing here yet.
No. Yeah, so it's kind of the last shot. And then next morning we took off, which was super calm, but I had my skirt on just in case. Like I'm never gonna let that happen again.
Yeah,
that was a bad.
So now,
if anybody was watching this thing about going sea kayaking, you know, don't learn the hard way, because I would definitely respect the big waters now. Like, at least have your skirt around your waist where you can get access to it and put it on.
I always wear a skirt, so I'm wearing one right now. Oh, you meant?
Right.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, that was we really came close to not having a good time on the way there.
So out of all the people I've talked to, you're the first one that I knew that's brave enough to actually kayak to the island. Because like I said, I remember taking the ferry, and it was a long poke to get there. I could not imagine that. Although that's nice. I have chicken arms, so I don't think I would have, made it.
Well, we do a lot of kayaking, like Pine River and Manistee River. Like we've done a lot of kayaking, but he just got these sea kayaks, and this was kind of the first trip. And when Pat says, "Oh, this will be a good first trip," like I kind of just trust him, and
Yeah. See, here's the thing about that though. I have a friend who's a YouTuber. His name's River King Pete. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I already don't trust him.
Now Pete, love you, Pete. He wanted me to do a kayaking trip with him, which we were planning on doing. Obviously, then the pandemic hit and everything changed. But he was talking to me about the trip that he wanted to go on. And once he started describing the rapids to me, like, you know that I've never done this. Like, I've kayaked. Yes, I've kayaked, but not his style of kayaking. He has a whole channel dedicated to, like, some of the craziest kayaking trips I've ever seen. Right. He's like, "Oh, you'll be fine. You'll probably flip over a couple times and, maybe swallow some water here and there, but I'll make sure nothing happens to you." I'm like, "That's something." Yeah. I'm not trying to, like, what? And he was like, "Oh, it's your first time. It'll be fine." I'm like, "No, I don't trust that, but I'll still do it." But if I'm gonna do a kayaking trip, I'm kind of more of like a lazy floater type guy.
Which is plenty of rivers for that can get in. That can have certain parts that give you a little bit more speed or a little bit of white caps, but not like high level. I don't know if it was high or lows. I don't even know how the ratings go on rivers, but we do a trip every year.
I think the higher the number, the more likely you're going to die.
Class 4 is pretty high. Right?
Yeah, you're dead.
But we do a trip every spring, like, right after the thaw when the rivers are kind of the fastest. So we try to do it like in April, late April. And we bring people, and a lot of times we brought people first time, they have tipped, or lost their phones. But they always have a good time, and, a lot of them come back for other ones. But it's always fun because it's like right at that edge where it's like cold. Like you really don't want to fall in, And then when you do fall in, but... When things happen on trips, whether it's rain or falling in, you really don't have no choice but to just like laugh about it and know that pretty soon you're going to be back to your life of comfort and ease. Like you're going to be back to hopping from your car to your house, your car to your work, like, and it'll just feel that much better. Like I've had terrible trips where it was freezing, cold, wet, and it feels really good to get back when you get back home and, or even
that's why I'm a big believer in. You hike a couple miles, but not too far from the nearest restaurant.
That's tricky. I think you'd like the bike packing because, like I said,
electric bike packing, where it's just one of these motions.
I mean, nowadays you can get a bike. Like you can be like, Quillos are doing well. I'm going to get my electric bike, but you can't even tell that it has batteries in it, and all of us will be trying to keep up with you.
Exactly. Yeah, I think for me, it's. All joking aside, I love hiking, I love backpacking, I love the whole experience, but 3 hip surgeries has really changed how I can, do certain trips. And, it's one of those things where I've had trips where we've done 15-mile days and no problem, depending on the terrain. And then other times where I've done 6-7 miles and I'm just like, I'm so done. I'm not even convinced I can like make it out of there with the level of pain. And, you know, so I get really torn on like where I'm going to go and how I'm going to do it, you know, because of that. But I also, in all fairness, I exercise basically zero. So I'm sure that a level of that could be mitigated if I just, you know, exercised and stretched and worked out and built all the muscles back up around that. But, you know, got a business to run. I don't got time for all that.
Right.
Who's got time to work out?
It's nice to have like, to me and Pat, we do a lot of the DTE trail riding, you know, with our bikes. And that's kind of like always been my gauge for like, you know, if I can't go there and do the 2 loops that we normally do on a Sunday morning, like I know where
you're back in Planet Fitness on Monday morning.
Well, I don't, not necessarily training, but even just doing that, just how bad it kicks my ass is how I can gauge my, you know, physical fitness, you know, but also when I do it, I feel like I'm back to like good, like just.
Dude, based on this really video, I need you to start training me because you were looking like Schwarzenegger there for a minute.
I actually worked out this morning after editing this video. I was like, I got to get this back.
You know, it's funny how alike we are because there's been times I've reminisced over the younger, more fit version of myself and got, you know what? I mean, case in point, the last time that happened, I went out and bought a Bowflex.
Yeah.
You know how many times I've used it? You know how many times I've used that Bowflex, Mike? 3.
Not enough, yeah.
I suck.
I have my stuff out. I have some workout stuff out on my porch, and when the winter comes, I just can't get out there. It's just too cold. I bought some like full finger like workout gloves. You know, I was like, I'll get out there, and at least the weights won't be cold in my hands because that burns. You know, I still haven't got out there. I get up in the morning. I'm just
bring it all here.
Yeah,
we'll just set up a spot right next to the
then
studio.
I'll never do it.
We'll work out, and then we'll come sit on here. We'll have our chests all poking out of our shirts and.
People will be expecting us to do really extreme trips if we're both like sitting here ripped and like trying to do a YouTube channel traveling. We're like,
that's fair.
Jump out of planes into some crazy island.
What we need to do then is drink more beer and work out less.
Right.
Then we can just car camp everywhere we go.
Yeah, and then you also won't be threatening to anybody. Nobody will be like, I'm not buying that douchebag's equipment.
Right, yeah. No, the fatter we are, the better.
Right.
That's 100%. Oh man, well, where do we go from here, Mike?
I mean, that was the trip I was going to share, but
here's my predicament. I'm out of beer. I have to use the bathroom.
Oh, me too, yeah.
So, do we pause, cut this bit out, do a quick little chop and slice so we can go do our break, come back, and that'll give us time to think of more stuff to talk about.
Let's see where we're at here.
Or do we end it?
Pick a number. If we're over an hour, we can pause it. And if we're under an hour, we'll pause it and come back. If we're over an hour, we'll end it. Sound good?
That works. The moment of truth.
Where are we at here? We got gigabytes. Oh, we're at 58 minutes.
Oh, no.
That's actually like such a solid number. Maybe we should end it right at an hour.
That's fine. Let's end it.
Let's hear. Are you have anything you're gonna end it with? You're the host, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This is really tripping me out.
Oh yeah.
No, I like it because it's like, it's great. Well, I think this was a successful beta first episode. Still lots of things to figure out, but overall I think it went really well. What I'd be really curious to know is what our listeners would like to see more of in terms of content, guests, etc. So if you have any suggestions for us, please leave them in the comments so that we can listen to them.
Yeah, I'm really curious how people like the idea of guests coming on and sharing a trip. Because when we get this podcast up on the website, we'll probably have links for my itinerary, from that trip, so people can click and plan their own trip. I'm hoping people like that, so some feedback on that would be nice. Yeah. And then when we have other YouTubers in here and they can bring a trip to share and talk about it, I think that'd be really. Because I know I'm always looking for inspiration for trips. Right. And if somebody lays out the whole itinerary of what they did, that's huge. Really valuable. So
the goal with the podcast in general is to have it available in as many areas as we can. One, but two, I really like the idea of having as many in-studio guests as possible. So long term, we plan on having as many guests in studio as possible. I want to try to stay away from doing the remote sessions as much as possible. But then if you have any other ideas when it comes to using the studio for product related content, informational content, any of that kind of stuff, we would love the suggestions, because ultimately the only way we're going to grow is if we actually give the people what they want.
Right.
Within reason.
Value. Yeah.
I still plan on doing, some things that are not seen as, just forget it. Just forget it.
It's going to be a surprise.
Just have to wait and see.
People like surprises. They like value and they like to be surprised, I think. So I think you got a good combo here. Yeah.
So we'll see how all that goes. So definitely be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And, while we're on the topic, this is quite embarrassing to admit, but I have never been on TikTok, literally ever. So we should probably do that. We should probably get on TikTok finally. I think it's time that we actually get on TikTok.
I've been trying to ignore it and just hoping it would just go away and wouldn't be something else I have to learn how to utilize. I see them sometime when my son sends me a video. I can open it.
It's all I ever hear about is TikTok. People talking about TikTok. Oh, you got to get on TikTok. TikTok. It's where everything's happening.
I mean, China knows what they're doing when it comes to applications.
I have no idea what you even do on there, but apparently it's where we're supposed to be. So follow us on all those, and soon to be TikTok. We'll see.
We got to get the staff to getting on all the TikTok trends.
I haven't set up a profile on anything in probably 10 years.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes, but TikTok, hopefully in the future. But in the meantime,
cool.
Stay tuned.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it was great.
Enjoyed it.
Great time.